So this last weekend, a player made Tengu plant history by, yes, you saw in the title and thumbnail, he won with Morphtronics. So I think it's best that I cover these tournaments, and if you guys want a more in-depth look at that Morphtronic deck, I'm probably going to do a video talking with Blaze Phoenix about it. We'll cover his list in this video for sure, but, I just wanted to give a quick breakdown of all these tournaments and stuff like that, especially leading up to our first qualifier for the World Championships. If you're not aware of Tengu Plant Worlds, it's going to be a free entry qualifier tournaments that lead up to a bunch of players qualifying to compete to win up to $500, maybe even more. So definitely be on the lookout for that. October 7th is our first qualifier, guys. And so, we're just getting our warm-ups in, testing out the meta. And we saw some spicy things get tested in this tournament. And the first one I'm going to cover is going to be Tengu Scramble. So this was just kind of a random monthly tournament that was thrown together just to lead up for testing for our first qualifier in October. And we can kind of take a look at the metagame. It was a pretty small tournament. We had 2 Tengu plants, 2 Nordics, 1 X-Saber, 1 Infernity, 1 Cat Sith Chaos or like Unicorn Control, 1 Scrap, 1 Agents, 1 KMP, 1 Crusher Control, 1 Gravekeeper, and then 1 Morphtronics. So we'll just kind of hop in and get in the list. Some of these lists aren't gonna aren't going to be full download links just because they were broken or didn't work for me. So, we got to deal with what we have, but we'll take a look at them. All right, so in 4th place, we have Janky, who ended up playing the Unicorn Control, although looks like Janky was testing something a bit different, opting to just kind of maybe go more towards just a Chaos Engine, not even really opting for the dark bug strategy that they were previously using. We see, Kushano still, but no dark bug, which is, it's a blow, guys. We all miss dark bug, but yeah, just testing out a different kind of variant, it seems, trying to see how viable Kaiku is, which I really like Kaiku. I think it's super powerful in this format. It does a lot of damage against a lot of different decks. Especially, even things like heroes, they can't Miracle Fusion while under Kaiku, and you can kind of chip away at their graveyard if they have heroes in grave. The only downside is just that 1800 attack versus 19. If it had 19, this card would be insane. But yeah, pretty similar to what we've seen, just kind of opting away from the Synchro into Fabled Unicorn strategy, and just more so focusing on just the raw chaos with still using Kushano plus, the cat to pop cards. Yeah, so looking pretty good, looking pretty standard as of right now. I don't know if Janky will continue with the Kaiku build or whatever. I feel like it's likely that they switch back to something that they were trying previous. I really feel like this was just to test a new strategy out, and I'm not sure if this was the results Janky wanted. I feel like Janky has done better with previous builds, but we'll see. So now we are moving on to 3rd place. I guess 3rd, 4th. So both Janky and Shinu Slaw got 3rd, 4th. We didn't actually put out who got what. But Shinu Slaw was playing X-Sabers. And this is kind of looking similar to my build. He opted for triple Upstart and 2 Nimble Mega Hamster. I'm going to be honest, I think this card needs to be a 3 of. I ever since I've tested it myself, I feel like this card is so important to run, just because getting Dark Soul, getting your non-tuners out is really key. And then just the ability to I don't know, it just adds so much tools. Adding a Raikou to out a Thunder King is really nice in my opinion. So I don't know, I personally think this is one of the best cards in X-Sabers if you're opting to go this route. So the 2, it's looking more kind of like an older build that I was testing before. And then, I'm personally not an Upstart fan, but, it is what it is. The deck looked pretty solid. I didn't get to watch much of Shinu Slaw just because of the fact that he kept playing people that were already on stream, so it put us in a weird spot. But, yeah, either way, a nice, good old top 4 showing for X-Sabers. Glad to see it. I love to see it because I love this deck. The other thing I'm kind of questionable about is the Leeching the Light. 3 Leeching the Light. I'm not a fan of this card, period, but having 3 in the side seems really excessive. I mean, I guess you're trying to like swing the agent matchup, but I just feel like there's better cards to do this. Also, one thing I've kind of learned is I used to side the Solemn Package, the 2 Warning, and the Judgment, but I kind of found that the Judgment really just isn't worth it if you're not running a ton of back row, which you're just not. So it's just better to put other back row in and then like just risk the heavy, in my opinion. You don't really ever want to pay half your life points in X Sabers. You want to have the ability to like crash Emmers and stuff like that. So I personally feel like this just isn't that good. It should just switch to like another back row. Like this could be Torrential. That's what I usually do. I do 2 Warning and a Torrential, and I think that's a lot better. But yeah, other than that, list looks pretty standard. Extra deck looking clean. That's kind of the exact extra deck I typically run. So yeah, we'll move on to second place. And then second place, we had the Paprika on the standard Tengu plants. Interestingly enough, we're opting for 1 Compulse and 1 enemy controller. I personally am a huge fan of triple enemy controller in this deck, or at least double. Like, I feel like this is the most versatile card in the entire deck. So I'm not sure why people are like typically cutting it. I mean, granted, I don't really test Tengu plants a lot, so maybe like somewhat, you know, maybe people have tested it and this card just hasn't came up all that useful for them. But I feel like I always want to see enemy controller when I'm playing plants. But other than that, it's just your standard build, you know. Opting for triple Thunder King makes sense. The Compulse is kind of odd just because I feel like this card isn't super versatile. I feel like this could just be double D-Prison, the Mirror Force Compulse, and that might just be better. But, you know, that's just me. Or you could cut both these and just put the enemy controller in, and that would be really, or 2 enemy controllers in, that'd be really good. But yeah, moving on to the side, this Electric Virus was really spicy. We saw it come up in a matchup. I don't remember which one, but it was like really relevant, and it was like it was on stream. It was pretty funny. I haven't seen Electric Virus be up there in a minute. Also opting to side the second enemy controller versus main it, which is odd. And then just a bunch of one-ofs in the side. I'm not sure why you're siding System Down with Cyber Dragon. If you have Chimera in the main, especially, why not just make 2? Like, if you're going to main the Chimera and the extra, that's, like, an interesting choice. Why not just put 2 Cyber Dragons in? And then, yeah, we got Debunk. That makes sense. Decree. All looking pretty relatively standard for your traditional Tengu plant build. Just some odd one-ofs in the side deck. The Electric Virus, though, that was clean. And finally, the moment you guys are waiting for, we gotta talk about the one, the only Morphtronic list that ended up taking out Tengu plants in the grand finals. We have such an interesting lineup, and there's a lot to unpack with this list. And I feel like because this tournament was smaller, people are gonna write this deck off right out the get-go. But I'll be honest, I have been personally playing and testing this deck myself. Like, Blaze Phoenix brought it to my attention. He was like, hey, I've been messing with this, what do you think? And I've kind of like messed with it myself. And this deck has a lot of potential, I guess I'll say. Like, there's a lot of different ways you can approach like playing it, but I would say that the builds kind of have to resemble exactly what you see here. Like, the build here is really solid. Basically, this deck just plays off of abusing your like machine dupe targets. Like, there's so many different targets that can be used for machine dupe, and we're not on an upstart just because of the fact that this deck wins a lot off of Ancient Sacred Wyvern, which is kind of an important detail because you can use Scopin as the level 3, Synchro with any of your level 4s and make it happen. But the crazy thing is just like the level of combos that can happen through machine duping Remoten. And that's the thing that I kind of learned from watching Blaze Phoenix play this is you can like normal summon Remoten, banish any Morphtronic in your grave to add a card. Then you can machine dupe it and then banish 2 more cards to add 2 more cards to your hand. Then you can exceed and then go into Levier and bring back one of the cards you banished and then synchro. So like, for example, if you have Staplin in your grave, that lets you set up to make like Landois, which is really good. It lets you play around Gores. But you can just gain so much advantage from playing this deck, just abusing Remoten and then Selphon. This deck feels kind of high roll, where like you literally need to see like hits off of Selphon in some points. Like sometimes you're really gambling that you hit a monster off of Selphon, which can feel kind of scary. But other than that, like this deck has so many tools of destruction. Like the Accelerator being able to out Thunder King and letting you like draw cards is really good. And in addition to the fact that you just have triple Sling in and like a lot of ways to put 2 monsters on the field. This deck is just so cool. And, I mean, we really can't not acknowledge the fact that this did take down Tengu plants in the Grand Finals. Some other cards to talk about is going to be this Horn of Heaven. This is something I was talking to Blaze Phoenix about. Because this deck just always ends on so many monsters, like there's a lot of times you just end on random tiny monsters. This Horn of Heaven actually goes really hard to just negate whatever problem your opponent's presenting. But yeah, overall, this extra deck is probably like exactly what you'd want in the extra deck. It looks really bizarre, but it is pretty relevant. The only thing I'm interested about is he did end up cutting formula, which to some degree makes sense, just because like it's hard to get into the formula. You basically need an effect veiler to do it. But I mean, in my personal testings, I have had scenarios where I reborn a veiler to synchro with a Selphon with Librarian field and get like crazy draws, stuff like that. Either way, this deck is so cool, guys, and this just kind of speaks lines to the format once again. You can play literally anything in this format, and if you just find the right build, you can make it work, because, you know, this is the first tournament we've ever seen Morphtronics be entered in, and it literally won, versus Tengu plants in Grand Finals. Like, you can't deny that that's just not absolutely insane to see. So yeah, that is Tengu Scramble. That is the top 4 for those decks. We're going to move on to Tengu Rumble. I think it was Tengu Rumble 9, which is our multi-day event. You have 72 hours to play out your rounds, and, you know, everybody, you know, it's just for those who don't have the time to play in a full tournament, like, throughout a day. And so, for Tengu Rumble, I don't have a meta breakdown, so we're just going to get right into the top 4. So the first deck we're going to be talking about is going to be Radmagi. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. But they're playing TG Nordic. And honestly, I really like this. I mean, they're just opting for a higher deck count, like 44 cards. But at the same time, like, it's really intimidating, because you really have to destroy these TG monsters by battle. They're always going to replace themselves, and they're always threatening with Horn of the Phantom Beast. The Horse has synergy with Horn of the Phantom Beast, and you're opting to run 3 super nimble Mega Hamster. Everything you have just floats super hard and sets up plays. Like, if they don't attack the Mega Hamster, you can still flip summon it and then normal summon the Horse and Synchro. It's just kind of really cool, especially with all this back row to protect your monsters. You can literally just hard set the Tangnostier and flip it up. I actually really like this list. I think it's super cool. The only thing I'd say is I don't know if you need all these TG1EM ones. I think that might be a bit excessive, especially given that you're trying to opt to Synchro a bit more. So that's just something to consider. I don't know. I really didn't get to see it played much. I should go back and watch the replays. But yeah, this deck is really sick. We're also opting for Needle Sealing in the side, which I think is really cool, because it's really easy to set up 4 monsters on the field with TGs. You just drop Striker, Warwolf, and then you can like blow up your opponent's field potentially and still search in the end phase, which I think is really awesome. But yeah, so that was 4th place. We'll now move on to, I guess they're both 3rd, 4th, so we'll move on to top 4. Again, I have a screenshot. I don't have a working link, so we have Drays, I believe. Yes, Drays with Scraps, which is, this is an interesting build because we're opting to run Scrap Goblin. I wonder how this tested. I personally kind of like Scrap Goblin, but I know a lot of other Scrap players don't. And then also another interesting thing is no Thunder King and 3 Chimera. So like, we're just maxing out on the Scrap engine with Reborn Tengu and then not running any filler. So no Thunder King, just a bunch of hard back row. I'm really curious how this deck tested. Obviously, making top 4 is really good, and it's a good representation for Scraps, but it is really interesting to see the fact that, like, that's a really low monster count, and you only can reliably search Scrap Beasts. So yeah, congrats to Drays for making top 4. This is really cool. Glad to see more Scrap representation. You already know. But now we'll move on to 2nd place, and again, I got another screenshot, guys. I'm sorry. A lot of links were not working. Just for the record, guys, if you top a tournament and you submitted your download link, I'm going to click on that download link. And important detail to know is if you change or delete that deck from that you made that download link off of, those changes will automatically update. So I'm not going to go in and download your deck and then try to fix to match your screenshot. I'm just going to pull up your screenshot. But that definitely isn't as ideal. So just try to avoid, you know, swapping up that deck, or maybe just make a duplicate of the deck if you want to edit it. You know, that's fine, but really helps me out. All right, so anyway, second place, we have Halfar, and he was playing Agents. And we're looking at a kind of standard, you know, Chaos Agent list, opting for the Maximum Christia, going for the Herald of Orange Light, 2 traps. The enemy controller is a bit spicy. I can get behind this. I think this card is very good, very versatile with Venus, especially. Like if they go Tour Guide Sangan, you can summon Venus, get a Shine Ball. You can tribute it off, steal their like Sangan, and then you can exceed with it to turn it off, which I think is really cool. We also have, you know, just interesting cards on the side, opting for Lance Rivalry. This was a weird card in my opinion. I'm not sure how Halfar felt about this, but I was watching on stream, and there was a point where Halfar had a Tour Guide that got Veilered and Rivalry on the field, and I was just thinking, if his opponent just never killed that Tour Guide, like just put defensive monsters up and then just built a board, like Halfar can't actually make another play that's good, because you can't exceed into anything with Rivalry, and so you're just kind of stuck on Tour Guide or Sangan, which isn't really going to accomplish very much. So you really give your opponent a lot of time to out this card if you have to end with a Tour Guide. So I felt like that was a little uncomfortable watching it on the stream, but you know, it is what it is. Otherwise, pretty standard agent list. And we can move on to first place. We actually, this isn't janky. We have Tegalik. I don't know if I'm saying your names right. But playing a Unicorn Chaos Control, bringing back the Dark Bug. Welcome back, Dark Bug. We love you, Dark Bug. But yeah, we're just kind of playing standard like janky's Unicorn Control, except we got some interesting spicy text. We got the Legacy of Yada in the deck, which is pretty fun. And then, you know, I'm not really sure what this is for other than to bait MSTs or like Heavy Storms, I guess. But like, I don't know. I feel like you might just want Starlight Road or something. I don't know. I'm not sure what the purpose of this really is. We've got, yeah, just kind of pretty standard chaos list. You know, there's not, we've kind of seen most of this here before. Some interesting cards in the side deck. We got the green Kappa to, you know, pop 2 spell or traps on the field. It's actually kind of a good card just because it happens in damage steps. So like, they're not going to be able to like Starlight Road or anything, which is kind of interesting. And then opting for Black Horn of Heaven and Chain Disappearance. Both of these are kind of like uniquely spicy cards. Black Horn, I think, is pretty good, so I'd be interested to see how this tested. But I mean, you took first place, so I don't know how much this was cited in, but I do like that card. But yeah, this deck as a whole, guys, has been really popping up as like kind of a more dominant version of Chaos that we've been seeing. Just abusing the Kushano, the Cat Sith, and then, you know, being able to just easily go into your Chaos Sword, stuff like that. Bring back Thunder Kings by banishing them. Chaos is kind of making a rise. You know, it's coming back. Chaos really fell out of flavor for a while. Not a lot of people are playing it, but this Unicorn Control version is really like adding fuel to the fire for Chaos. You know what I'm saying? So that's pretty interesting to see. But anyway, guys, I think that is going to wrap it up for this video today. You know, let me know in the comments what you guys think about these decks, and especially what you think about that Morphtronic deck. You know, I think that's really cool. It's really cool to see people still innovating, and there's still decks that can manage to squeak their way into top cut of tournaments, or even win tournaments in the case of Morphtronics. So yeah, but to wrap this video up, we'll just give a quick shout out to my Patreon. So shout out to Richard, Beast Eyes, Slap God, My Dude, Photo Shooty, Brian Ford, and Sven Olbrand. Thank you guys so much for the support. Just as a quick reminder, guys, Advanced has sponsored the Tengu Plant World Championship, and they gave me a 30% off discount code for orders on their website. That 30% isn't going to stick around for long. It'll be reduced at some point. So I would make sure that if you guys are interested in getting products from Advanced, help support them supporting us in the Tengu Plant format. Make sure that you click the affiliate link in my description and, you know, check out and get some stuff from Advanced GG. They got a ton of cool products, so be sure to check that out. Make sure you guys are on the lookout for Tengu Plant Worlds coming in. The first qualifier, October 7th, Tengu Plant Discord. Make sure you guys are there competing. You want to get a slice of that cash money, you know what I'm saying? So, but other than that, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, and have a great time doing today.